All right, so I'm going to give you a quick rundown or run through of this assignment. If you want to do this, follow along with your object that you created. You're either going to use the shell command or offset surface or a combination of the two in order to give this object some thickness. So I'll just very quickly do this one version. I'm going to make a copy of it. I'm going to explode it. I'm going to do offset surface. I'm going to make sure that they're all flipping in. So I do flip all, so they're all pointing in. I'll keep it at a distance of 1, corner sharp, solid yes. So I'll offset all of these. The best thing to do if you're going to use this is essentially to inspect your object to get a good idea of what needs to be trimmed and what does not need to be trimmed. Right? And then once you have an idea of how this should all be trimmed, then you just select everything and just trim it. And I'm just going to zoom in on a couple areas over here just to trim all the pieces or all the parts that I don't need. And I'll do this a little bit fast. It might not be complete, just to again, just gives you an idea of how this should work. And you will end up with these tiny little parts such as that. So you kind of have to really pay attention and zoom in to these pieces that you're trimming and cutting. At least for now, I'll leave it like that. I think I might be missing a few extra areas. Like if I zoom in here, I can see I'm missing a few extras here. And I'm sure I'm still missing a few extras around here, but at least for now. All right, so again, just make sure yours is as cleaned up as it can get, that it has some thickness. And again, if the offset surface doesn't work, then use the shell. If the shell doesn't work, you might have to use a combination of both offset surface and shell. And then essentially what you're going to do is take this last drawing and use a clipping plane. And set up the clipping plane in such a way where you can create an interesting drawing. I'm going to change my clipping plane to this layer, only because since it's on the red layer, it helps me see this and visualize it just a little bit better. Just keep in mind that when you make your 2D drawings, they could only be done from these orthogonal views. So they could only be done from the top view, the front, the right, left, back. They cannot be made from perspective. So I just need to make sure my clipping plane works in, for now, make sure that it works in top view. Just make sure that it works in all these views. So say as an example, one of the drawings that I want is this one in top view. I can still move this around in my perspective view. Just try to find an interesting drawing. Say, for example, that's the one that I want. And I go to my top view, make 2D. View, scene silhouette if you want to, clipping plane. Definitely maintain source layers. And I'm just going to move this out of the way because I know I'm going to make another one. And I just want to double check my layers just to make sure. Okay, I have the scene silhouette. I have the clipping plane. Okay, perfect. I have all the parts. If I want to, say, I don't want another top view, I'll rotate this 90 degrees. Might have to rotate it again. Go to my front view, make sure I'm in shaded mode. And get something from this perspective. Say as an example, that's the other one. So now for my front view, I need to make the drawings. So if I want to, I can still select everything that I need in my perspective view, but I want to make sure I click on the front, type Make 2D, because I can only make these from top, front, right, left, back view. I cannot make them from perspective. And if you need to, say for example, you're looking at this and you're rotating this around. I'm going to take ortho turn off, and you're rotating this around, and you're like, well, let me see if I can find a better view, a better perspective of this, and say like you find one. You say I really like this view, but it doesn't show up correctly in my front view or my right view. Well, then just make sure you rotate this so that it lines up correctly. So take this entire thing, rotate from there to there, make sure you have ortho turned on so that it actually snaps and lines up orthogonally to the grid. And now you've just rotated your entire model, and now you've rotated in the front view. And while everything's still selected, I'm going to do Make 2D. All right, so I have a series of section cuts that I can now start to use, and of course you need to clean. You'll have to clean it up. And just turn this red just so that you get an idea of what the that section cut will look like. So there's my section cuts, and then I see everything else that's happening behind. And what you'll essentially end up doing is, adjust using the hatch command or the paint bucket command in Illustrator to essentially make nice drawings, nice section cut drawings. And just to show you a couple examples, here's a section cut. Here's two drawings. They're cutting through their model. Everything is organized on the grid. You can see the grid layout that they used. Everything's centered. Everything's centered along these grid lines. If I turn off the guides, you can read the drawing really well. The part where the section cut is happening, you can see it's a very bright, bold color, so you know what's being cut through section and what is not, what's the rest of the drawing. There's a difference in line weight quality. So you can see where it's actually being cut through in section has a much thicker line weight versus the rest of it. So they have like a thicker line, secondary and tertiary lines, just to make the section cut, the drawing read better. Another example, again, you can see how everything is laid out on the grid. This is centered along these grid lines. This is centered along centered in these grids. Let me turn off the ruler or the guides. And again, you can start to see line thicknesses, the parts that are being cut through. It's easy to see where the section cuts are happening, as well as having a really nice overall presentation. And then the last drawing, again, everything lines up on the grid. Everything lines up along these grid lines. It's centered. This drawing is centered within these grid lines. Even the way it's being cut through here, it's actually centered along these guidelines. Let me turn off these guides. So you can see like it's a really nice overall presentation. And then if you zoom in, again, you start to see the difference in line weight qualities, dash lines, the darker colors where it's being cut through. Same thing here. These sections are just rotated 90 degrees, which is fine. That's the style that they wanted to go with. But you can see where this is, what's being cut through in the section, what's being cut through in the section. Again, different line weight quality to create that overall presentation.